Hey everyone, Brian Chrisman here again. Thank you for dropping by. Today I'd like to discuss the the philosophy that informs my reading of my Kierkegaardian reading of the Gospel of Mark. In a sense, what is my philosophical approach? And I stumbled on this because yesterday I was submitting the second manuscript in my Kierkegaardian reading for my second volume upcoming, and I had to write a little description of what my series is about. And I came up with this ad hoc, off the top of my head, description of what the Kierkegaardian reading is about. So I'm going to read this, and I'll post it also in the description of this video. This will get us started here, but I say Mark and Kierkegaard both use creative literary methods to meaningfully communicate the gospel of Jesus to readers. Their imaginative method engaged their readers on many levels of human existence, namely the aesthetic, ethical, and religious spheres of life. This comprehensive approach aimed at and sought to effect a holistic response of the whole person to the gospel of Christ. Philosophically, Mark's pre-critical and Kierkegaard's post-critical approaches to full-orbed knowing, living, and flourishing present a rich contrast to the rationalistic, impersonal value predominating modern knowing and being. A Kierkegaardian reading of Mark brings the riches of each author together to provide a viable alternative to the practical nihilism of modern and postmodern life. There's a lot of loaded terminology in that, and two of the things that really should stand out the most is I say that Mark has a pre-critical approach and Kierkegaard a post-critical approach. I talked about both of them had these approaches were to full-orbed knowing, multifaceted knowing, living, and flourishing, in contrast to the rationalistic, impersonal approach of modern knowing. So what I'm getting at there is pre-critical and post-critical approaches to philosophy and to knowing are in relation to modernism. Modernism was really from Descartes and this rationalistic approach to all knowledge. It really saw, in a sense, the view from nowhere, which means a disembodied, abstract, theoretical approach to all life, all knowing, all existence. You could call it the view from nowhere. It's also the God's eye view. It's really a view that only God can have. But we view life, we view everything as human beings. We view it as personal creatures. We view it not in this impersonal way. And so behind all this is Michael Polanyi. He wrote this magnificent book in the mid-19th century called Personal Knowledge, toward a post-critical philosophy. He was a scientist turned philosopher. He said, scientists and everyone will tell you this is how we do science. And he said it was all rational and impersonal and all this, things that it wasn't. He said it's always, in a sense, a community of explorers in science, and it's a journey in as human beings doing all kinds of personal things in community in science, but it's not this discovering some abstract, impersonal way to discover everything about life and existence and meaning. So I see, and this isn't a topic in my books per se, but it comes out a bit here and there when I talk about narrative and creativity and the literary nature of Mark and Kierkegaard, that they're aiming at and they're appealing to the fact that we're humans and we think as humans, we rationalize as humans. We don't rationalize as these brains on a stick, is a term that Jamie Smith uses about knowledge and imagination. We're not brains on a stick. We're people with bodies and in a world that affects us, and this is how knowledge works. It's not this literally just an impersonal knowledge. It's always personal knowledge, no matter how much people want to say this is just the bottom truth of rational knowledge. It's a bunch of hooey, I would say. It's always from human knowers. And really, that's why postmodernism came into being, because modernism had created these foundations that didn't hold, that, because we're human. We're not going to have some foundation, this view from nowhere, or this God's eye view. Because even with God's revelation, we're the ones who are interpreting it. So we still end up in some ways in the same place. So at any rate, I find the narrative method of Mark and Kierkegaard to be Polanyian, to be based on and fostering personal knowledge, and it's the only way to exist in a world as humans. And I find it much more realistic. I call it critical realism would fall into this. That's another philosophical view, which I'd say Polanyi may be in. At any rate, hopefully this gives you something to think about and gives you a little bit of background to where I'm coming from, where I'm going to, the philosophical approach to the Kierkegaardian reading of the Gospel of Mark. Hope this was interesting, and certainly will raise a lot of questions in your mind. Feel free to comment. And as always, like and subscribe. I really appreciate you dropping in, and hope this was informative. Thank you.